Well, has the Canadian government been taken over by total liberal corruption? Well, that's exactly what members of Parliament are telling the Post-Millennial and David Clayton, who broke this story. And this is all happening in the wake of Trudeau's Green Slush Fund scandal. So what is going on in Canada? Well, let's check in with David Clayton, who broke this story at the Post-Millennial. So, David, good to see you. Total corruption inside Parliament. Is that what's happening here?
It's total corruption and total chaos inside Parliament. The funny thing is, though, Clayton, it took the mainstream media almost a full week to notice. I see a story from CBC last night saying, hey, what's happening in Parliament? Looks like it's paralyzed. It's been that way for a week. And it's been the new media and the independent media that have actually noticed it. Now, why? I have no idea. It's almost like there's this willful denial from much of the mainstream media that Trudeau is in such trouble. And this is an incredible scandal. And I interviewed the chief critic on this, the ethics critic for the Conservative Party, the official opposition, Michael Barrett, on Monday about this. And he really, really filled me in on what's going on. It's incredible. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars related to what's being called a green slush fund. Technically, it's the Sustainable Development Technology Canada. It's been called the Green Slush Fund, though, because anybody who had any kind of vague idea about some green industry and happened to be a good friend of cabinet ministers in the Trudeau government, or Justin Trudeau himself, or good backroom Liberal donors, got access to this program and were given grants, were given money to set up. Half of these things didn't even have anything to do with so-called green technology. A lot of them didn't even work. In some cases, they weren't even anything more than ideas that were being financed. But the corruption angle here is very, very clear. These were friends of the Liberal government, friends of Justin Trudeau, who were given a lot of money, a bag of money to pursue, in many cases, absolutely nothing. They were given money. And this isn't the first time this government has been bogged down in this kind of incredible scandal like this, with hundreds of millions of dollars being wasted, taxpayer money being thrown away. This one, shall I say, is going to stick. This is the first time the opposition party, official opposition, with the support of the New Democrats and the Bloc Québécois, have actually forced Parliament to shut down. The Speaker agreed with them last week and said, all right, no more government business until we examine, he didn't say examine government corruption, but he said, until we examine this issue, meaning government corruption. So this has been very seminal in terms of the history of the Canadian Parliament, and I would say even in the history of legislative bodies around the world.
Today, the Globalist published a story saying, Canada, what explains Justin Trudeau's long goodbye? Is the Canadian Prime Minister's refusal to leave office a symptom of hubris, or does he have a legitimate hope for a turnaround? I thought that was great. Does Justin Trudeau actually believe he can turn this around, and why has he not resigned at this point? I mean, he did survive that non-confidence vote a few weeks ago. So does he feel like that he has the hubris now to continue, that the Canadian people love him?
Well, Justin Trudeau always believes that the Canadian people love him. He believes everybody secretly loves him, even though the evidence to the contrary is overwhelming. He hasn't even been in the House of Commons this week, Clayton. He's been in Southeast Asia. He made a stop in the Middle East. He's in Laos yesterday. What in the heck is he doing there? And he hasn't even acknowledged the crisis in the House of Commons. His cabinet ministers, this is what really kills me, Clayton, is that his House leader, Karina Gould, this is the same woman who helped support the former Waffen-SS member coming to Parliament. And when it was discovered he was a former Waffen-SS, former Nazi, she said, let's just excise this from the parliamentary record. Let's redact it. Let's redact it all from Hansard, like it never happened. So now, you know what she's saying is that, well, if we examine corruption, this is going to be a violation of Canadians' charter rights. And people are saying, what? How does that add up? But she's saying, well, you know, it has everything to do with, we can't deliver these unredacted documents to the RCMP, which the issue is here. The Conservatives and all the opposition parties are demanding that the uncensored documents relating to this green slush fund be delivered to the RCMP so they can potentially prosecute Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. The House Leader, Karina Gould, is saying this would be a violation of Canadians' charter rights because there has been no search warrant issued. And everyone's saying, what does this have to do with having public knowledge of documents or giving these to the RCMP? There's no search warrant involved here. This is just the worst kind of falsification, and the only way I can say of this issue by this woman who persists in trying to confuse people about what this is really about. She's the one that's obviously very confused.
On these slush fund issues here, can you just give a few examples to the audience as to how this money has flowed to different shady sources? Are there any sort of glaring examples that you might be able to share?
Well, you're talking about companies that really, in many cases, didn't even have names. This is what makes it so incredible. These were ideas, not companies, not names. So the idea of, well, let's we have a green energy plan here to produce more wind power. How are you going to do that? And wind power is not working anyway, and all it seems to do is kill birds, and it's an environmental catastrophe. So, but that doesn't matter. So, okay, here's $20 million so you can start thinking about how you're going to do that. This is how lax it was. These people did not even in many cases have legitimate businesses, legitimate companies. And this money is being doled out on the basis of, let's consider this. Here's an idea. Here's a proposal. Oh, and there's money for you, as long as you're a friend of the management. And it reminded me of the scene from Casablanca where I'm shocked to discover there's gambling going on here. Oh, but you're a friend of Mr. Rick. That's okay. So.
Right. You're a friend of Justin Trudeau. That's okay. You can have this money that flows to you illegally. Where do things stand now? I mean, what's going to happen? Will there be any criminal prosecutions here? Will there be any sort of hearings on this, or is this going to be swept under the rug?
I can't see this being swept under the rug. There's just far too much evidence here, and he's done it before. But he is so incredibly delusional right now, meaning Justin Trudeau is so incredibly detached from reality, wandering around the world as usual, creating a large carbon footprint with his jet, and not even seeming to be bothered by this. And when of course he's questioned by reporters now, his exit line is always, I don't do politics. And it's incredible, but that is his exit line now. I don't do politics. And he resorts to the usual talking points of, I'm rolling up my sleeves, and he literally attempts to roll up his sleeves, and I'm getting to work for the work that needs to be done for the Canadian people. Now there's talk, Clayton, and I'm hearing this from some sources, I don't think it's really going to happen, that Justin Trudeau will prorogue Parliament. Now, that is a British parliamentary tradition where the Prime Minister, with the approval of the Governor-General, or in the UK, of the Queen or the King, can actually just end Parliament until further notice. And it's a very controversial thing to do. It's been done 3 times in the last about 10 or 15 years. And Justin Trudeau can say, I'm proroguing Parliament till the spring because I just can't handle it anymore. It's a possibility. But the thing is, if he does that, all of the legislation that's currently on the docket dies with the proroguing. So that would mean, thankfully, a lot of bills like the Online Harms Act, the censorship bill with the thought crimes component will die. It will not see even a second reading. We have another bill that's going, believe it or not, C-293, that is going to outlaw meat products during a pandemic. That is on the verge of passing in the Senate. That will die. This oil bill that is going to criminalize any speech promoting the fossil fuel industry. You did a segment on your show about this. That will die as well. So a lot of us are crossing our fingers and saying, maybe Justin Trudeau, this is your only way out to maintain your leadership. But it might be the only way out to get this legislation killed before the next election. Now, the other possibility, Justin Trudeau comes back and says, I'm going to fight but he's losing the support of those opposition parties that supported him in the last non-confidence vote. The NDP are wavering because they see themselves as the next official opposition. The Liberals are that low in the polls. And the Bloc Québécois is saying, well, I think we're going to pull the plug on this too. So it's looking like it might be good news either way for people who believe in freedom and free speech anyway.
Well, we'll see. Do you think there'll be another non-confidence vote if that's one of the alternatives?
If Trudeau does not prorogue within the next week or so, yes, there will be. There definitely will be. And we know already that the separatist party that supported Trudeau the last time has essentially said it's going to pull the plug on this. And the only wild card right now is the NDP, the New Democratic Party, the Socialist Party under Jagmeet Singh, who it seems to be once again saying it's time to move to a new election. It's time to move to an early election. So I think we're going to either see Trudeau prorogue the parliament, or we're going to see a possibly November election in this country, which would coincide almost exactly with the U.S. presidential and congressional elections. So very interesting.
Yeah, the stars are aligning once again between our two countries.
If we don't blow the world up first with a nuclear war in Ukraine or the Middle East. So that's always a possibility.
Yeah, we have a fewer than 30 days now until the election. So we will see. David, great to see you as always. And I appreciate the fall. I love the fall shirt. I love the fall shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Get in the fall mood. Handsome as always. I love that fall shirt. I need to get one of those. I think that's
yes, you do.
Yes, I need to get one of those. It's time to, now it's starting to get cooler. I need to make the switch. David, great to see you. Thanks for the great reporting on this. And thanks for keeping them honest up there as always.
Okay. Thank you so much, Clayton. We'll be back again.
We want to tell you about our friends over at the Wellness Company because they have developed a kids emergency kit. So to all our parents and grandparents out there who've purchased an emergency kit to keep yourself out of urgent care or the hospital, well, the Wellness Company has launched a kids emergency kit too, also with an EpiPen. You asked and they delivered just in time for back to school. So whether you have in your house, strep throat, lice, the flu, ear infection, all of this unexpected stuff that comes with being a parent and stresses you out. Well, it's a helpless feeling when you can't help your child and you may not have access to a hospital or a clinic that can. Well, you can no longer rely on these people as gatekeepers as we are staring down the barrel of a global World War III gun right now. So protect yourself with the Kids Emergency Kit. It has a 40-page guidebook. It's like having an expert by your side, getting you step-by-step directions even when the doctor's office is closed. And in fact, we did have strep in our house once, or a staph infection rather, when a hurricane was barreling down and all the doctor's offices were closed. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
That was terrifying. And so had we had an antibiotic to stop that infection, we had to drive miles and miles in order to find a doctor that would prescribe something to help our son with this when he was a baby. So I know this very well. And it's a purchase that helps not just peace of mind, but also it's just incredibly practical. So look for yourself at twc.health/redacted. You'll find all of the emergency kits there, especially this kids emergency kit. Use the promo code redacted and you'll save $40 at checkout. So again, it's twc.health/redacted. Use the code redacted and you'll save $40 at checkout.